What up, Martin? I wanted to put together a quick little video for you to kind of break down my vocal chain. If you were in Ableton, I could just send the chain over, but I think that just by kind of looking at some of the little individual components in my chain that you can recreate it easily enough through Cubase. Yeah, this has been a real game changer for me. I feel like it's going to make you a lot more comfortable behind the mic. Ideally, when you're performing, you'll forget that you're tracking and you'll be hearing yourself back as if it's a finished vocal, which makes it a lot easier to perform naturally, I find. So first thing, I always track into some light tuning. You can kind of sing into the note and find it and use it as a guide. You can either print the tuning or not. I've tried it both ways. Maybe just experiment with both. But I kind of like having auto-tune in UAD console if you're using UAD stuff. If not, you can just run auto-tune inside of your DAW. Let's say that you're using auto-tune in your DAW. You would just want to select use low latency. And that'll knock it down to like 2.3 milliseconds of delay or latency, which won't really be noticeable. The settings that are fairly transparent, I use something like this. So that's a good starting point. And all of my vocals, my leads, my doubles, my harmonies are all just going through one chain basically. When I do the final mix down, I'll split them up. But for tracking, I just want zero latency, super low buffer setting. And so this chain that I put together is basically zero latency. I do have a little bit of saturation and a bit of a de-esser. That's kind of like the first thing that gets hit. I'll send you the bounce as well so you can just kind of hear the vocal in context. But this is the main vocal chain. And basically what's happening is the leads, the doubles, all my shit is just getting tracked through this one group. And it's hitting a little bit of multi-band compression first. The doubler, which is really clutch, I used it with Manipulator. We'll listen to how that sounds shortly. A little bit of EQ, 2 compressors that are just lightly getting tickled, not tons of gain reduction. CLA vocals, which I highly recommend this plugin. You can get it if you might have the Waves bundle or something, but this is really great to sing through. My Ambience chain, which is mostly made of little tiny delays and choruses, just like 10% of each, 10% here, 10% there. An effects rack with little delays, a little bit of reverb, and then my Valhalla reverb. And after that, I use a kilohertz transient shaper just to add a little bit of body to it. And then another EQ that's just kind of taming some harshness, and then another EQ which is just a high pass filter. And so basically the chain that I'm singing into already sounds basically finished.
That much to say. In the fall we're coming home.
Okay, cool. So basically, most of the lead vocal is happening right here.
But I have too far away.
There's nothing really on this channel. I mean, pulling a little bit of 3K. That's it. And then it hits this saturator right here.
But I have too far away.
A little bit of de-essing.
But I have too far away.
And so that's all really basic. Here's where it gets interesting. The multiband compressor, I feel like, is really clutch to just control a lot of the boxiness and boominess if I bypass this.
But I have too far away. But I have too far away.
Tiny boost on the highs, but mostly just controlling the fundamental, which is like 250 hertz down, and then the mid-range type stuff. The doubler is fucking sick. I'll just kill the dry so you can hear the doubles.
But I have too far away. Do you have that much to say?
And that's basically the manipulator plugin. One's on the left channel, one's on the right channel. They're doing slightly different stuff. It's both just affecting the formant and the harmonics, and then they're connected to, each is connected to its own LFO. That's just basically oscillating the harmonics and formant really slowly. So that gives it some really nice width, some like subtle width.
But I have too far away.
So I'd say any doubler or chorus that you can throw on early in the chain is gonna just really make it more comfortable because you won't just be hearing a dry vocal. Some really basic EQ. I mean, this is a 6 dB, so just pulling like a couple dB here and there, that's a dB and a half.
But I have too far away.
Not doing a whole lot. The double compressor is really crucial. I learned about this from Seth Drake, serial compression, of one compressor with a super long attack, pretty fast release, and then another compressor with a shorter attack and a super short release. And the way that they play off of each other adds a really nice sort of dynamic to the vocal. Then I'm just doing some trim gain right here before it goes into CLA vocals.
But I have too far away.
Without CLA vocals.
But I have too far away.
So that's not doing a ton, but it does add a little bit of ambience.
Have that much to say. Have that much to say.
It adds a little bit of magic. I would probably use JJP vocals for my final vocal, but for tracking CLA vocals is nice because it's lower latency than JJP. Anyways, and then doing a little bit of gain after that to gain it up again. This ambience chain is really clutch. I think that this is where most of the magic happens. If I were to bypass this chain,
but I have too far away. But I have too far away.
so it's adding all the ambience.
Do you have that much to say? But I have too far away.
This is another really cool trick that I learned from Seth Drake. It's basically serial delays with super high feedback, and then you just dial in the time. So if I crank this up to 100% wet,
But I have too far away. But I have to. But I have to. But I have to. But I have to. But I have too far away. But I have too far away. But I have too far away.
you can just find, you can almost find a note that you really like, and then you dial that back to 10%. Sure that there's delays that you can do that in Cubase with. It kind of just metallicizes it.
But I have too far away.
And then after that, a chorus.
But I have too far away. But I have too far away.
Just like crank it up to 100%, make it sound cool, find a setting that you like, and then bring it back down to 10%.
But I have too far away.
And then I have another delay.
But I have too far away. but a half too far away.
Just kind of like tweak it, pull it back down to 10%.
But a half too far away.
Same thing with the flange.
But a half too far away. But a half too far away.
So it's just a lot of chorus, delay, and flange. Like crank it to 100%, make it sound cool, and then dial it back. Not sure how you do this in Cubase, but I basically have some effects chains that are stacking with the dry, well, the sort of affected dry. So I'll have this. It's just a couple delays that are stacked onto each other, and a reverb, and then a Valhalla vintage verb.
But a half too far away.
The reverb has a compressor that is sidechained to the dry vocal. So basically the sidechain or the compressor it's compressing the reverb when I'm singing, and then when I stop singing, the tail kind of swells up. That's really handy because then your reverb isn't stepping on your dry vocal. So that's kind of like the ambience chain that I learned from Seth Drake. And then a transient shaper. I love the kilohertz transient shaper.
But a half too far away. But a half too far away.
It's not doing a ton. It's arguable whether you would even need it necessarily. And then EQ that's just taming some highs, some like harshness, and then another EQ for a high pass filter. And that's it. And it's like zero latency. Everything is basically going through it. You could maybe put another like saturator or something afterwards at the very end.
But a half too far away.
And my doubles are going through that. My leads are, everything is basically.
But a half too far away.
I have some really high harmonies that come in on the second chorus.
Oh, are you to believe I saw you? Oxygen to breathe, I call you. No one ever need to say goodbye. No one ever need.
And then you can see my comping. I'm doing a shit ton of comping. I do a lot of like nudging little phrases onto the grid. Because it's like a couple milliseconds can make the difference of being in the pocket or not. And yeah, man, that's pretty much it. Hit me up with any questions if you want. I feel like that multiband compressor early in the chain is really crucial. I think singing into some tuning is super fucking crucial because then you can kind of like find the note. I think that the doubler really early on is crucial, and all the little effect tails, little reverbs and delays. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, but just like extreme settings, but then dialed back to like 10% wetness, and just a lot of little things that are happening, and it just makes it way more fun too. And you're not just hearing your dry vocal back to yourself, which is so cringy. Yeah. Anyways, hope you found this useful, buddy. Thank you so much for everything that you and the team do, man. I love you guys, and I'll see you on New Year's. Lates.